Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So it's been a while, but I'm gonna make more videos. So today we're gonna be talking about the Owl House season 3 and be reviewing all of 3 of the specials, my thoughts on it, and just basically talking about the main problems of the season and why I didn't like it that much. And I'm a little bit sick right now, but I wanted to get the video out now because I won't have time to later, and I'm also sweating. But let's just get right into it, starting with episode 1. So it started off, we got the season premiere, thanks to them, and this is the first of the 3 specials, and I was really surprised by this one because it was like genuinely really good, and I enjoyed it a lot, and it had a perfect amount of everything that the show can do good. Like usually it either has one or the other and it makes the show not good, but this was just like my favorite episode of the entire show, I think. Most of the episode was just Luz and, her friends from the Boiling Isles going to Earth. She reunites with her mom, and Bellows is also there, and they're basically just trying to get back to the Boiling Isles to save everybody there. And yeah, that's really the episode, so like it's not too much, but it was really enjoyable. And I wish all 3 specials could have been like this, but it's whatever. But very good episode. I rate it a 9 out of 10. And yeah, so this season does have the best episode, but the other 2 are much, much worse. Our next episode is the second episode of the season and the penultimate episode of the season and series, For the Future. So this was the second of the 3 specials, and by far the worst episode of the season, and maybe the worst episode of the show. It had terrible pacing issues. Like, it was awful. Half the special was just getting back to the Boiling Isles. We got to see King, and he's now like with the Collector, and everybody's like a puppet now. And that was whatever, but the weirdest part was that how much time they spent focused on this rebellion group in Hexside. Like, that was just so weird, and just like focusing on Kikimora being like an undercover villain and Masha development. Like, I get that that's what they wanted to include in the 3rd season, but like you could have just had that as expanded knowledge instead of like focusing so much on it. Like, that was just so weird. When you're making a show and structuring a season and you have limited time, you have to ditch some stuff and more or less focus on the main character and the lore and the story instead of random stuff. And I know, I get it, like they didn't have all these episodes. They were supposed to have like a 20 episode season and only got 3 episodes, but it's like they could have still done stuff instead of making it disappointing. Like, it was all just so rushed, and it could have felt a lot better if they just focused on the main characters, but instead they just made it such a mess, and it was just awful. So those are my thoughts on that episode, and I rate it a 3 out of 10. By far the worst episode of the season, and probably the worst episode of the entire show. Like, this is just so disappointing after the first special. And yeah, like, just not much really happened here, and it really hurts the season and the show in general. Okay, now we got our final episode of the season, the 3rd episode of the season, and the final episode of the show in general, Watching and Dreaming. This was the last of the 3 specials of season 3, and this finale was very disappointing. I know some people liked it, a lot of people liked it, and whatever, so if you did, that's cool, but I just did not enjoy it at all. Does that have to do with the fact I'm not that much of a fan of the show? Like, maybe, but I feel like just from a, neutral perspective, it's just very messy. The first, like, 10 minutes of the episode, it's just dream stuff, and, like, dream scenes, and it just was a waste. It wasn't very fun, and of course most of the episode just focused on Lou, Zeta, King, the Collector, and but some characters just got like a few minutes of screen time and like a line or two of dialogue, and even though they were like in so many of the episodes, and it just didn't feel like a very satisfying conclusion. Like Hootie, he didn't even have one line, and that was, even though he was like one of the first characters in the show to appear, and a main character basically, like that's like not very good. And like it just felt like it was such a mess and so rushed. Again, they could have taken away those dream scenes, like shortened them to add dialogue. Wow, the stuff they did with Luz and Eden King was great. Everything else was just so messy. King's dad, or whatever he is, or whatever, I don't know what gender, but that stuff, it was it was fine, just messy, rushed, and yeah, it's just none of this felt satisfying or like a conclusion. It just felt like the end of a season, and not a good one at that. But I just wish that it would have been better, of course. And the final couple minutes with all of them growing up in the time skip, it was very anticlimactic, not very fun. I mean, like, what I mean by that is just like, in general, like, one of the big problems of this season is that, like, of the series, that there's just like no stakes in this season or show or this episode mainly. Like, there was no stakes, everybody gets out, everybody's fine, and I just felt like that was kind of a cop-out ending, just not very good. But it is what it is. That's my thoughts on this episode. I rate it a 4 out of 10 overall. Very sad finale, for the show, but I'm glad that a lot of people enjoyed it. And now, what are my overall thoughts on season 3? It was pretty bad. The first episode was very promising. I thought this season would actually be like really good, but the second and third episodes just were so messy and just could have been avoided if they just took out some scenes and just put it, like, added it on in like some kind of stupid meeting or whatever. Well, not meeting, but like a live stream, and just had it revealed on there, and then people would be like, oh, that's cool. That's how a lot of the information from the show comes. That's where a lot of it comes from. And yes, they could have just done that, but instead they just took away a lot of time from the episodes to do that, and that was pretty disappointing. So my overall thoughts on the show: season 1 was pretty fun, season 2 was a mixed bag, and season 3 was just a mess. So those were my thoughts on the show, and let me know what you thought of the season and the show in general. Which episode was your favorite of the season? Which one was your least favorite? What would you have done differently? And yeah, so those are my problems with the Owl House season 3. Very messy. Had some enjoyable stuff, had some not so enjoyable stuff, was satisfying for some, unsatisfying for others. And yeah, so I'll see you guys next time.